All right, guys. Looks like we are live. So, and you can hear me type. So cool. So,
all right, guys.
Turbofish is here.
We are live.
And I didn't shut the TV off. Hold on.
And you can hear me type. So cool. All right, guys. Turbofish is here.
All right. Now we're good. Now we're there. So we've got Alyssa was first to the chat, and I have the wrong screen up. Let's try that one. Hold on. Nope. There we go. All right. So we've got Alyssa was first. We've got David Gilkison was second. He had quite a few questions, so we will address those here in just a moment. Yeah, I had the wrong screen up. Pond Life is here. Hello from Australia. Keith Bordley is here. Candy is here. Let's see who else we got. I think I got that part. All right, Pond Life from Australia. Welcome. Big D Smoke. Not Nola Jane Fishrich. Mr. B's. Robert P. So if I missed anyone, and the Reefing Rickon. So got everybody, I think. So we've got everybody here. So I think I will address David's questions first. Pam's here as well. So hi Pam. I've got the top chat on. So looks like we got 12 folks here. So welcome everybody. So I think you know what I'll do, David, is I'll go through my spiel, and then once we've then I'll go back through your questions to see if Don Gallagher's here. Welcome, welcome JH. How's it going? Or Joseph? Cichlids 23's here. So let's go ahead here now, and I'll go through the spiel on the stand building stuff itself. And then we'll go back to David's questions, and I'll answer any of the ones that I didn't answer. I know there's some of them that I will answer, and then some of them that I won't. So let's go ahead here, and let me get it set up. And we'll start at the beginning. All right. All right. This. All right, so we're here. So first, what we're going to do kind of is walk through a couple of different types of stands that you can build, and then I'll go through some basic, stand building things. So this is from my fish room. This is the cichlid tank, and you can see here, this is just your common wood stand. This is 8 feet long. This is made out of 2x6s, so you can see here. We'll get to this a little bit more as we go through it, but you can see here this support here. You always want to have all of your supports on the wood, not held up by screws. So, and I'll explain that a little bit more here in just a minute. But so this is like your basic wood stand. I've got a support here in the middle. You can run an 8 foot long run with Inventory King, dual 75s. So this tank is the kind of the mixed African cichlid tank here with the yellow labs, purple ACI, and a few random peacocks. And there are fish in here. This is the Pundamilia Nairite tank, but just not having anything there. And then there's a sump down here. I've got to change that, obviously. And then that's the controller for the J-Bow DC pump. So we'll go to the next slide here. The next stand I'm going to show you, if I can. Oh, there we go. All right, so this I'm going to call, just because of where I found it, is the this is the Aquarium Co-op style stand. So I mean, this obviously wasn't made to take pictures of the fish tanks. This was more to obviously talk about the stands, but you know, I've got a little bit of work to do here with some of the green algae up here. with the and that's a what is that? It's Iliodon furcidens. These are the what are these guys called? These are the Gadea. Shoot, drawing a blank. Gadea atropenis, and then I have Xenotoka lion's eye over here. But so this is, I'm gonna call this, like I said, the aquarium co-op type stand. So you've got the cinder blocks. Corey put out a 45-minute video of building one of these. So basically all it is, I don't have any cinder blocks here. I'd show them to you. But basically you just stack cinder blocks, 2x4s, and you want to keep it about every 4 to 5 feet. I honestly, when I first looked at this and watched that video, I was kind of like, there's no way this is going to work. But then kind of after I looked at it a little bit, I actually tested it out, and it works pretty well. So I use that in quite a few different spots here, especially upstairs where there's a lot more breeding tanks. So it's kind of an interesting, it's one thing I always thought you needed to turn the wood sideways instead of flat, but this seems to work, and you could do it the other way too. I've seen people build some stands, cinder block stands, where you flip it this way and then you almost have it tiered. But these work pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. I wouldn't put like a 900-gallon tank on it, but you could do that. Let me see here. So anyone else who's joined. Lumpy Dog is here. Inventory King is here as well. He's built the Dado style. Yep, I don't have a picture of that. I have built that before. I built it once. But that's one you can do too, definitely. Ted Judy did a video on it where you can build the Dado style. For those of you who don't know, is basically you kind of, and I'll flip the screen over for just a moment here. Alright, so basically what you would do is you would notch this piece of wood. So you just put a little notch in here, and then this would sit on the inside of that, and then that would be how you support it. So let me flip back to the presentation again, which I think is that one. Alright, so flipping down to the screen, please. Alright, so now this is, I'll call this the hybrid aquarium co-op stand. So on the bottom here, you've got the cinder blocks, kind of like Corey did. This has the legs upward instead of laying flat. These are two 90 gallons on here with 75s on top, and then again you have everything supported by wood. So like this joint right here that you see here with the this is screwed in. You don't want that screw hole or that little joint here to be not supported by wood, right? So if you left it hanging, like if you turn this piece of wood the other way and had it going on the back and leaving this open, you would have a risk of like shearing that piece of wood and shearing your stand and having all your tanks come down, which would not be good. So this is kind of like the hybrid aquarium co-op stand, I'll call it. And then a lot of times too, one thing I've learned is playing around with wood is this cross brace right here. A lot of times if you make something, it'll be kind of wobbly, and so you stick this cross brace in here, and you want to do so on the back here as well. You can see I did it on the back as well. Kind of firms it up a little bit. So that's one thing I will say as we getting into this. If you injure yourself, it is not my fault. So if you do something, I didn't do it. So, but that's something you can do too. Obviously, you want to make sure it's level, it's plumb, the best of your ability. This stand actually, just because there's so much weight on it, I've actually tied this into the joist in the ceiling of the barn, because otherwise even with the supports in it, it was not stable enough for me, and I ended up having to put it. No, I had nothing to do with your gallbladder, Pam. So, So I even did that. So if you live in an earthquake zone, like Michigan, it's not really an earthquake zone. So I can't really answer those requirements about earthquakes because I don't live in it. So you may not be able to do this, and you may have to strap it to the wall and stuff if you're living in the earthquake zones. I didn't think about that just till just now, but yeah, it's one of those things where like we don't have that here, so it's not something I'm familiar with. But this is an important thing too. Oop. And then David, kind of hitting on getting closer to your questions now. This is something I wanted to put on here. It's kind of just a factoid. I looked this up today, and there's a guy on Reef Central, and I'm going to look that up and put it in the chat for you. So give me 1 second here. I meant to have that ready. So I'm going to go to. And this is like old school, like forum stuff. So I'm going to put this in here. And if you guys ever want to read it, go ahead. This is one of those very, very interesting. Dylan Martin's here. How's it going? So if you guys ever check that out, there's a guy on there named Rocket Engineer who that's where I went when I started building stands, probably back in 2007, 2008. So, somebody, Rocket Engineer. I mean, I think the guy was a student at the time. So, yeah. So that guy, that's where I learned how to build my first stand, is watching that. So, he put an article in there too, like scientific test on like the tensile strength of wood and stuff. I was looking at that a little bit this morning, and it's pretty interesting stuff. So, but on here, so the screw can hold about 150 pounds, assuming like a 2.5-inch deck screw. So this is the one I use. This is a galvanized deck screw. You get them at Home Depot. Use the 2.5-inch screw. So that's what I use. Assuming you're using like a 2x4, 2x6, 2x8. Now, if you're doing like a 4x4, I honestly wouldn't use a 4x4, especially like the womanized ones, like the pressure treated, because those will split. Before I ever found Rocket Engineer. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go back to the other screen here in a minute, David, and then I'll show you guys this again. So, and then we'll go to the last page here. Let me get myself back here. Is one 2x4 on end, 24 inches long, supports about 1,900 pounds. So before it deflects enough to fail. So that is basically, that's pretty strong for a 2x4. So all of these stands that you see in here, you can pretty much overbuild them. So that is it for the presentation, and then I'm going to scroll all the way back up through David's questions, and I'll show you, and we'll go to that one. All right. So, like I was saying earlier, this is the screw I use. It's a galvanized 2.5-inch deck screw. I've used these forever. I think they're called like a number 8. So, it's a number 8 deck screw. And then the talking about the wood. So you never want to screw it in like this. We'll use this like that way. So you never want to have it screwed like this, right? Like we talked about with the screw. So like if you have your tank sitting like on the top here, like it's gonna shear off, right? Like that, and you don't want that, obviously. So you want to have it sitting on top of the wood, and then obviously like a brace behind it. Go that way. So you want to have like a piece of wood behind here, preferably the length of your stand. I mean, I've done it not that way too, but it's better to have it the full length, like in the Rocket Engineer stand building thread I shared with you guys. So that's the that's how you want to have it. So brought some props. So let me scroll up now, and I will look at the questions from David to make sure I can answer all of them. So he has 4x2x2 stand out in front of me. For a 40-inch by 24 tank, would you build the stand exactly 24 by 40? 48 by 24, or go slightly larger as 48 and a half by 24 and a half. Depends what you're doing with it. So, if you're just building it for one tank, I would try to get it exactly the tank dimensions. So, like when I built the stand for my 240 gallon, it was like almost like exactly the tank dimensions. So, that's what I'll tell you. But if you are building it to put a second tank above it, then you do want to make it a little bit wider. Because you're going to want to put a second piece of wood on it. So, like, I don't have a good example. Let me go back to this stand, for example. Hold on, let me flip the. Go back to that picture. So, all right, let's just put that. Pointer. So if you can see here, like this 90 gallon isn't like on the very edge of the tank. So, but this piece of wood here is on the edge. So that's going to be where you'd want to, depends what you're going to do. If you're building it just one tank, and make it the exact size. Obviously, you know, you have a little bit of play with it, you know, with the 2x4. One thing to keep in mind, too, a 2x4 isn't exactly 2x4. It's actually like 1.5 by 1.5 by 3.5. So that's something to keep in mind. And then when you're building your stand, you got to make sure to keep in mind before you cut the thickness of the wood. So like here again, we're gonna use this again. Like to make this brace, you know, or to make this end piece, you want to take into account the 1.5 inch here and the 1.5 inch here. So when you take this measurement, 90 gallon I think is 18 inches wide, I believe, or deep. You want to make this 15 because it's 1.5 inch here, 1.5 inch here. So that's about 3 inches. You want to take 3 inches off to account for the thickness of the wood. So I'm going to go back to me again. All right. To cover the top in plywood or not seems prudent. Depends what kind of tank you're using. I think Corey mentioned this a few weeks ago as well. If you have an acrylic tank, I would say you would want to cover it. But a glass tank, you would want to cover it on the corners. So, like if you watch, Corey just put this video out, and I've seen it a couple times where he built his store. He's got the 20 gallon, he's got 20 gallon highs, I think. And what he's got is he has them sitting on these corners, and there's nothing in between. There's no cross piece. And so he's got them just supported on the corners. So you don't need plywood to do like a glass tank, but if you have an acrylic tank, you're gonna need a piece of plywood for it, or to make as much of it flat as possible. I have these tanks that are sitting literally right next to me, and I'll see if I can flip the camera so you guys can see. But if you can see these tanks here, there's no plywood there, but they're flat 2x4s, which covers enough of it, I think. These are like 15, 20 gallon tanks, so they're not terribly huge, but. Alright, so question number 3 is he saw the king of DIY covering his stand tops with cheap yoga mat. That seems to be a lot easier than foam board. You can do whatever you want. I think a lot of people are against the foam though. Depending what kind of tank again. If you're using a glass tank, you can actually damage your tank with the foam. Because the foam will actually push. There's like a little lip on your tank, and I should have like grabbed a tank, but let me go grab a tank real quick. I'll be right back. So we got props. So you look here. This is a glass tank, and you have this little lip right here. And this is only like a 5.5 gallon tank. So if you put a piece of foam here, you're gonna push this bottom up, and you could possibly crack it. So I wouldn't put anything with a glass tank personally, but if you have an acrylic, I would maybe just use the foam. You could use yoga mat too, but I think foam's probably a little bit better. So let me. What I want to do here real quick is go to this. Go to. Let me catch up with the chat for a minute. All right. So. All right. So. All right. So number 4, staining versus painting. Which holds up better to moisture? Well, here's what I'll tell you. I think either are fine. I've done more painting than staining, but that being said, with stain being an oil-based product, it will be more resistant to water than you would with paint. But that being said, I've done either. Or I've done both, sorry. All right, so on to question number 5. I think we answered this one. Joining 2 2x4s together. So 2 or 2.5 inch screws. I would use 2.5 inch. I would not use 3 inch though. I've always had bad luck with 3 inch, like either stripping the heads or just being more difficult. To glue or screw or not to glue, that is the question. Glue is, I think you should Gorilla Glue it as well. I mean, I don't a lot of times, but probably should. The Gorilla Glue makes it stronger. I have a habit of taking my stands apart and rebuilding things, so I tend not to glue, but you probably should. All right. All right. If one doesn't have a table saw or chop saw, what is the best way to get straight cuts with a handheld circular saw? If you're cutting 2x4s, get a square. Again, I can't find that one in enough time, but it makes something called like a 40 or a 90 degree square. It's about this long. Let me share my screen here. Hold on. Just so that you can see what it is. Alright, I'm going to share my screen for a second here. Alright, something like this, right here. So what you want to do is you want to take into account the, I should know what this is called, but I don't. The little piece on the saw, where you're basically line it up with your line, put this square on it, and then run that along your line to make a square cut, or a straight cut on the 2x4. And then if you're using like a circular saw, make sure your blade, some of them you can adjust the, I'll put it back on me. So some of them you can put the blade at an angle, so you can, instead of having the blade straight, you can do, you can miter it, but make sure that blade's straight too. I've run into that. So, benefits of covering the back of the stand to prevent possible twisting. You could, you can do that. You can use, depends what you're going to do with it. If you're making a piece of furniture, I would say put a piece of plywood in the back. If you are making a breeding rack, I would say no. But I would reinforce it with maybe some 2x4s going straight up and down, or even better, at an angle, like this. So, alright, let me see. Let me see. Sit the sump on the floor between the legs of the stand or cover it. My opinion, that's a personal preference one. So I'm going to flip back again to my little presentation here. And I'll show you how I've got it. So I have it on the floor here. Now this is upstairs. This is where I took this. This sump is on the floor. But it depends on your application. So if I am sitting... the thing I always run into is height issues in this house just because everything is like 7-foot ceilings. And so I always end up with them on the ground, even downstairs in the concrete, which I know will I'll lose some heat from that just because it's sitting on the ground. But you could put foam in between it too if you wanted to for the sump, just to eliminate some of the heat loss. Like I said, though, if you have a glass tank, you may not want to do that. So, all right, let's go ahead here, and we'll flip back to me. And I think I hit all of David's... nope, one more. How high would you build the stand? Do you base it on the height of the sump or the height of the tank? Base it on both. So you want to kind of think about the sump you have, the height of the tank that you have, and also, like, if you're building more than one tank, like a dual rack, you want to make sure you leave enough room for your arm to get in. So I've cut it pretty close before, so I always use the hand test. I don't have like a standard measurement, but I usually use the hand test and kind of like can I reach the back of the tank and kind of towards the bottom without it being like ridiculously painful to do so. So I think I have everything. I think I've got all those questions. But what did I do? Yeah. And I just lost the chat. Hold on. Nope. Mode. Alright, well, I gotta go back to the... That's not nice of it. I'll have to figure out what I'm doing here in a minute. So we'll go back to here. Alright, so... Alright, so let's go ahead here and figure out... let me catch up with the chat now. So... Alright, Anthony's Fishy Friends is here. How's it going? Alright. Cichlids 23, how's it going? If I didn't say hi to you earlier. David, come back. No, I did not come back with a 55-gallon. There is an empty 55-gallon downstairs right now. I emptied it today. I'm kind of working on the fish room build. So... that's coming along. Let's see. Mr. B's, the brand matters. Here's why some tanks are built with sides on the bottom and some have a suspended bottom. Yeah, that's true. So, that is true. Let me make sure I don't have top chat on. Oh, I'm on live chat. I always... Here. Sorry, guys. All right. Yep. So. Yep. Why they didn't come back with a 55? Well, sorry to hear that. Cichlids 23. Yep, Carpenter Square. Yeah, so I do this for a hobby. I'm not a woodworker by trade or anything, so yeah, that's not good. So I'm again Siglets23. Sorry to hear that. Yep, that's a shame. Sharing Life is smart. You're welcome, David. Yeah, so real estate 8-inch minimum. Yeah, I've cut it a little closer than that. Just like I said, just to make things fit. I'm going to make a video about how to not kill your fish. Any ideas for the video? I have some already, but I don't want to miss anything. Would it be easy to build a stand for? Yes, absolutely easy to build one. Yeah, it's easy to build a 75-gallon stand. It's pretty standard sizes too. It's 18 by 24 by 48, so that's a pretty standard size. I think it is 18. Maybe it's 24. I apologize if I said 18 earlier. I think it's actually 24. How not to kill your fish. Do your research. Watch your tanks. Make corrections where needed. Buy from good sources. Try not to impulse buy, and if you do, make sure you've spent time in the hobby and you know what you're buying. So, that being said, I mean, everyone kills fish, so it happens, but I've got a good one. Make sure you don't have any lotion on your hands. So, like if you use some of the stuff that's out there, like hand lotion and stuff, has either like clove oil, maybe even palm oil too, which is not good for your tanks. Yeah, I apologize. I've got some allergies going on, and like my eye has been like bugging out like for the whole day. So. You're teetering on the verge. Had to fight it off there for a second. Coughing won't even help me now. I'm making a video. I'll keep making videos. Yeah, making videos is actually kind of fun. It is a lot of work. KG Tropicals just did his members only stream, and he may be still live now. But yeah, it was pretty good. We talked a little bit about YouTube and how to do all that stuff. So do your maintenance for sure. I figured you had that one. Don't overfeed. Let me see what that says. Yeah, I'll let that go. I have a tip that kills fish that most don't know. I've killed fish a lot of different ways, so make sure your equipment's good as well, in working order. I bought for saltwater, I bought something called a calcium reactor, and it had a CO2 regulator in it, and the regulator failed, and it dumped the entire bottle of CO2 into my tank, and which caused a sudden pH swing, which then obviously the fish can't take a sudden pH swing, and basically nuked the entire tank. Let me see. Don't overfeed. That's another one. Dan Slee is here. How's it going? Can I see your set up? I want to do it out of a storage container. Yep. Let me go ahead here, and let me pull that back up. So we will go to, and I'm going to lose the chat now because it messed up Hold on, come on. Oh, I'll just go to the right spot, doesn't it? Over here. All right, all this is, and I'll grab the pointer, is I actually got this from a garage sale, but it's a little acrylic tower. It's filled with bio balls here. This has filter floss here, and this is a central system. So there's a drain here, a drain here. There's a tank over here that drains, and there's a one off camera here that would drain as well. And they all drain into this sump through the bio balls and return back. I mean, I could make this even better, but that's a very simple sump setup that I use on quite a few of the tanks here. So, all right, let me go ahead and that. Go back to me and go back here. So, all right, let's see. All right, his mom wants to stand. Dylan, absolutely, no problem. Glad to help. Yes, David. That does work. So Airstone in the sump does do the same thing in terms of surface agitation and dissolved oxygen. A lot of times with a sump, the water falling through as well will give you quite a bit of dissolved oxygen. Let's see. It's like jumping a fish into 3 different tanks with different. Okay, that's about killing fish. Yeah, I mean, obviously most sumps, like Dylan said, there is less surface area, but in terms of like adding it to the tank, I mean, you are pumping the same amount of air into it through the hose. I mean, assuming the hose size is the same, you're using the same Airstone. So, that being said, I think that's good for sure. So we've been going now for about 40 minutes. So I am going to flip down. If you guys have any other stand building questions for me, go ahead and fire them away. So Pond Life, overall the pet shops don't follow what the farms are doing, and as buyers, most don't know. I just get info online, and it might not be what breeders have done. Yeah. I know some stores, if you listen to Corey from Aquarium Co-op, he does talk about how he sources fish from places that match his water. So his wholesaler, they have softer water in Washington. Here we have pretty hard water in Michigan, so if I were to open a fish store, which I'm not planning on doing anytime soon or ever probably, but if you're opening a fish store, you do want to add you would want to get fish from a source that does match your water. So I wouldn't use the same things. So Dylan, is it hard to make storage in a stand? No. So, yeah, and then Peter, I will get yours in a minute, because that one's a good question. All right, let me answer Dylan's first. So if you want to make storage, so I'm gonna have to go back to this again. Pointer. Go to the scene. Alright, so say Dylan, this is your tank right here. And you have, say you're making the Aquarium Co-op style stand. So you have this. This is your main display tank. Obviously, you'd have your blocks here and here. But you could put storage here. Like you could put your storage like in this area. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Or down here. You could even slide like a small storage thing down here. So that's how I would do it. Back there. Back there. Alright. Alright. Alright, curved aquarium. I have actually thought about this question. And here's why. At one point, I was thinking about doing a dual bow front stand down in my down in the downstairs of the fish barn. So, and I studied how mine was built, and here's the only way I can think of it. And I'm gonna have to get a chalkboard out here. So we're gonna do this very old school. So you have to bear with me for just a moment here. And I'm gonna make sure I don't kill anything as I go here. All right. So we have the board, and I'm gonna go behind the board. So there's the board. So we have our board. So here's how we're going to do this. And it's just got very dark, so I apologize. So we're going to try to do this. So basically, you're going to take like the only way I could think to do it is you cut your bow front stand. So this is your bow front tank. You would cut it out of like say a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. So you'd make one. And then we're going to move this up a little bit. You make two. And this is terrible drawing. I apologize. And you're gonna have to sacrifice. If you're doing two tanks, you'd have to sacrifice some space and have some supports here, like this. I know this is a god awful drawing, but if you're making it, one, it would be easier because you would just do this. And this will be a different sort of view of it. But let me see. So we're going to do it like that. And then you just do this. And then you put your wood in between here and use that as your supports. Right? And then you'd have it in the front. You could probably make a door out of it. But that is how you would do the stand. So, all right. Yeah, I have a curved tank as my display tank. A half man, half liquid 25 or 500 gallon bow front. No, I don't have any problems with it looking funny. It depends on the tank and the glass, I think. I've had good luck so far. So a tank has a 1.5 inch pipe coming out of the overflow. Some has openings for a 1 inch pipe going in. Need to reduce the pipe diameter. Does it matter if I reduce it near the overflow or near the sump at the end of the pipe? Let me think about that. That's a good question. Good night, Mr. Bees. Thanks for joining us. Boy. You stumped me on that one. I am kind of thinking... I don't really think so. I don't think it does. I'm going to defer if you'd ask that question to Corvus. I don't think personally it does, but I'm going to tell you I don't know. I've never thought about it. Thinking about it now, I mean, I think it would. So, hey, Maple Street Aquatics, welcome. How's it going? So, yeah, I don't think it would matter. That's a good question. I would personally, if I were doing it, I would probably do it either in the middle or closer to the top. That's just more of an aesthetic. Um, it'd be an aesthetic thing. I don't think it would. I don't think it would matter. Honestly, I don't think it would matter. Good night, Dylan. Have a good night. So Maple Street Aquatics is. Sorry, I can't talk. It's getting late. Maple Street Aquatics is picking up 2 ponds, so that's cool for sure. Are they big ponds or are they smaller ones? I'm kind of curious. I'll have to check out. See if you put those on video. So, let me see. Alright, we've been going now for 48 minutes or so, 46 minutes. Alright. So, anything, no problem, David. Anytime. So, alright. Do you guys have any more fish questions? We kind of talked through the stand stuff a little bit. So, so he's looking for a 70-inch by 40-inch by 24 deep. Cool. That looks best 70s. That is what, 5. Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. Definitely. I've always been tempted to put one of those Intex ponds in the middle of the barn, or like build one with a pond liner. I don't think it will fit in the middle. It could, but I don't think it fits. I'll have to finish the build out and see what's going on. So, Pond Life's going to build an extension to his pond. Sounds good. Tips on getting plecos to eat. I am not a big pleco guy. I would use, the normal foods, the Repashy, Soylent Green, the Morning Wood. Yeah, I am not a big pleco guy, so I can't really answer that. I would check. Maple Street Aquatics says green beans. I've seen a lot of them do that. I would talk with Jeff Rose, or look up Pleco Paradise on Facebook and ask them. And then you've got to see what kind of pleco you have too. Some of them are wood-eating plecos, and some of them are meat-eating plecos. So you need to research the type of pleco you have, and then if it's no problem, Robert. Thank you for coming out. So you can make anything fit. Yeah, pond may be a tough one though. So it's a Trinidad. Do you have an L number? Like I said, yeah, zucchini, cucumber. I would even think something like either like some kelp wafers, like Northfin or the Hikari, or even depending on the pleco again, or if you've got like I said, Repashy, Onip tabs might even work as well. So Candy put the link in. Thank you, Candy. That's really got to. Yeah, that's really what I've got. Like I said, I apologize. I'm not a big pleco guy. Something I'm kind of exploring my way into a little bit. Speaking of plecos, though, kind of segues nicely into Thursday's video is actually going to be a walkthrough of Pleco Paradise's booth at Aquashella. That was in Dallas a couple weeks ago. So that's going to be good. So that was a good time. There's some pretty rare plecos in that video. So I'm not going to spoil it and tell you which ones are in it, so you guys will have to watch. But that is a very I think that's a pretty cool video. So it's gonna come out on Thursday. I don't know yet what I'm gonna do for Sunday. I've been working on a project with someone. I think we're getting done with one of the videos, and I think that might go out Sunday on Easter. If not, we've been kind of going back and forth. We're both been pretty busy. If that doesn't go, then we will be doing, or I'll be doing, probably like an update on the build downstairs and kind of the rearranging of the fish barn. So, tell us about peppermint. I'm breeding them now. Are you talking peppermint plecos, shrimp, which are saltwater? I need a little bit more on that one. So, let me see here. So, all right. So Mean Fish is working and lurking. Thanks, Mean Fish. So let me make sure I didn't miss anyone's questions here. So I think I've caught everyone's questions. So, all right. So we'll go for probably about another 5, 6, 7 minutes or so. I do appreciate you guys hanging out. So do you guys, Maple Street Aquatics, Pond Life, where are you from? I think he's from, I'll let him answer, but I think he's from Australia. Yep. So Mean Fish was lurking, which I do quite a bit. I do that a lot on Corvus Oskin's channel. So I'll be in the early chat, and then once he gets rolling, a lot of times I'll have it on and I'll be working on stuff. So any of you guys have any fish plans over Easter? He's 6'4" and full of muscle. Queensland is the place to do tropical ponds with heaters in the winter. I always get my Australia geography messed up. Is Queensland in the bottom or the top? I always forget. I'll have to look it up. We do tank stuff and pond stuff. Okay. Alright. Alright, so he's breeding peppermints. Hey, I got a question for you guys. Are you guys seeing a huge lag? I know John at KG Tropicals was having that issue earlier, so I'm going to check right now and see. I'm going to do the same test heat. I'm going to put a finger up and see how long it takes. All right, not terrible. Okay, because when I stream, like I stream, and then I have the monitor over here, and then I can see, like there's a lag obviously with YouTube, so I just want to see how long the lag was. He was saying that his lag from when he was talking to when it showed up on the stream was quite a bit. So I wanted to just testing it out. So yeah, that's what I mean. The delay. Yeah, there's always a delay. I just wanted to, because he was saying his was like extremely long, like more than 15 seconds. Waiting to see my massive tank overhaul settles and fixing it. Okay, cool, Alyssa. Yeah, I'm. Oh, so okay, my buffering. Okay. All right, so. All right, so if you guys don't have any more questions, we'll give it another minute or so for any last questions, and then I think I am going to You can adjust the delay in the settings. Okay, I'll have to see. It's no big deal. I'm fine with it. I was just curious because John was having it a. What was I say? Oh, John was having an extremely long delay, so I was just curious to see how long mine was. So could be your internet. Yeah, like I said, mine's been pretty good here. I've been watching it on this. I keep it up live here as well, so I can watch it. So that being said, I think we are going to. Go ahead and shut it down. So thank you guys for coming out. And as always, stay fishy, stay skeptical, keep on breeding, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. For those of you that don't know, videos do come out on Thursday and on Sunday, and we do live stream here 9 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. So I don't know what time that would be in Australia, but I think it's probably Wednesday for you. So that being said, thank you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.